We are now recording. So, Jona Reyes. Also, thanks to Rhea. I'll top that with thank you to Rhea. This can be on our YouTube channel. But anyway, Jona Reyes has been an herbalist for 4 years and has been in the clinical setting since 2019, working with clients and their providers to provide an all-natural health plan that works for their individual needs. She enjoys researching and learning about the different properties of the herbs that make up the supplements she creates. She has 4 children and who love taking walks through the neighborhood to forage and learn about the many foods and vitamins that surround us every day. There is a verse in the Bible that states, "The fruit of the tree shall be for meat and the leaves shall be for medicine." This saying drives not only her life, but it is what helps her to have such a connection to the world around us, because she knows in order to live healthy, it takes a good relationship with your body and what you consume. And nothing is healthier than the plants that sprout up with no effort. That was really beautiful. All right, I'm just gonna hand the floor to Jona. So let me stop sharing.
Thank you. And Josh, that just gave me the goosies. I was like, oh, that's so sweet. Okay, so I am going to share my screen. Let me know if you can see it. Is everything good? Okie dokie. So we are coming here, we're going to talk about exactly, are they weeds or are they medicine, right? And we're just kind of go over a couple things that are sitting right in your backyard, or if you have an empty field somewhere, it's probably overabundance in that empty field. And we're kind of going to dig in and see, exactly what they are. So the first question that we have to ask when we're presented with this is, what is a weed? Does anyone want to take a guess or, what you would consider a weed to be?
A weed is a plant that somebody's not familiar with.
Okay, a plant somebody's not familiar with. That's a good definition. I like that definition. Anyone else? All right, so the next, we're gonna do the definition, right? So everything has a definition. So the definition that you would get from the dictionary states, it's a plant growing where it's not wanted and in competition with cultivated plants. Another definition states that it's a plant that grows vigorously and it chokes out desirable plants. And so when I think of, those plants that, the cultivated plants, when you think of cultivated plants, you think of carrots and onions and garlic and asparagus and, all of those plants that we usually get from the grocery store, right? But we usually have like this garden plot or this bed, kind of like all of the plants that are probably being planted in the backyards at the food systems in this food systems project. But what I wanted to bring attention to is the fact that everything happens for a reason, right? And so when things happen in life, no matter what happens, one thing that people always say is, oh, it's okay, everything happens for a reason, right? And so that's exactly the output that I look at when I see plants, right? Everything happens for a reason. And so when we begin to look at the makeup and, the reason plants may grow, we think back centuries and how the weeds today that we have been used by so many cultures for a means to survive. You can go all the way back to Egyptian times and notice that there are plants, there are what we would call weeds that are used in different elements of history, whether it's the Native Americans, whether it's the Egyptians, and even the European settlers when they came, they also use the weeds that we see today to make different medicines or, make different foods, cosmetics. And they used these weeds, as we would say, as their main source. This is, again, before, science came along and started making, these manufactured medicines, right? Before they began making medicines, they would literally walk the trail and pick up what their medicine would be. And so another thing that we have to bring in mind is Hippocrates, right? Everybody is aware of, or most people are aware of the Hippocratic Oath, right? And how, that is one thing that doctors do whenever, they begin their practice after they graduate medical school. Well, Hippocrates specifically also mentions, if you go to his corpus, it mentions ancient medicines, and it gives you a rundown of ancient medicines. And when you go in there, and we're not going to go too far on this. I just wanted to, breeze through it. But if you go down, it tells you how, what medicines are, and, how they react between being hot or cold or moist and dry, depending on what area you're in. Different medicines will sprout up to match that area of what your body temperature would be. So if you're in a hot area, there's going to be different medicines that are going to sprout up to help more of a hot climate as composed to a cold climate, and things of that sort. I definitely recommend you guys look at this. It is very informative, and in all of his work on this, between air, water, places, all of that, he digs into, clean water and the way, water reacts to the body, because our body is made up of so much water, right? So I definitely recommend you look into that. And so another thing I wanted to bring up, has anybody seen the new series Sweet Tooth? No one? I apologize if I give you a spoiler alert. But it's a series, there's a sickness going around. And every single time someone catches the sickness, these purple, beautiful flowers pop up everywhere. And that's kind of how people can tell if someone has had the sickness or currently has the sickness, because this flower pops up. And, it doesn't say in the series or anything like that. I watched the whole series. I binge watched it. But it doesn't say in the series the significance of these flowers, but they do bring attention to the fact that these flowers pop up when everyone gets sick. And so it is my thought that it's actually going to be something they might use for medicine. They might actually use this, because currently they're looking for the cure for the sickness. So keep an eye out on that if they choose to use that as a cure for the sickness that they have. All right. So examples of beneficial weeds that are literally sitting right in your backyard. So we have dandelion, right? Those are, the little cattail, they kind of look like little cattails, but they're bigger. And they're usually, when you're kids, they put them under your chin. Some people call them buttercups. And then white clover, which are the white flowers that kind of look like they have spiky hair, right? That's white clover. And then you have red clover. That's kind of purplish. And depending on what region you're in, it does have a red color. And that's the tiny white spiky hair's big cousin, right? Because he has spiky hair too, but his hair is longer and spiky hair. And plantain. And plantain, it's not the banana, but it's the herb plantain. So it kind of, and we'll dig more into plantain later, and we'll dig into red clover later as well. And different varieties of nettles. So we have stinging nettle, we have nettle, and then we have purple dead nettle. And those you'll see in the beginning of spring. You might see the purple dead nettle. If you look at it, there's like a purple tip, and it kind of looks like it's drooping, which is very fitting for the name purple dead nettle. And then the mullein, which this plant is extremely, it's a special plant. I really love mullein. We're not going over mullein today, but I definitely advise you to look mullein up or reach out, and I will give you all about mullein, because one, it needs a special soil in order to grow. And the thing about the special soil, it grows in really horrible soil. It actually helps revitalize really terrible soil. And it has to be at a certain point before it grows. And it only grows for 2 years. The first year, the strongest is in the roots. And the second year, they have this beautiful flower that comes up, and it's yellow, and it kind of looks like fire is bursting out of the top of the flower. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's so useful. And then the modern roses that a lot of people usually have in their backyard, and they trim their rose bushes and they're giving it to people for celebrations. But roses are very beneficial. And so right now, what we're going to focus on is plantain. If you see, there's 2 different types that might grow in your backyard. Is the picture clear enough for you guys to see it, to identify it? Yes, okay. And so this one on the, I will actually, it should be, there we go. Can you guys see the little pencil? Do you see the pencil?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you see the spotlight?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this one right here, this is called the broadleaf plantain. If you notice, the leaves are broader, right? And usually kids play with the stem of it, or these are the seeds, and they usually rip them off piece by piece, which is great because, again, they're seeds. So the more they rip them off, the more they're being planted. And then this one over here, do you guys see that? Oh. Do you see this over here? This is narrow leaf plantain. And these kind of look like the small little cattails. The cattails that you see by the river. And these ones, these are narrow, and I will show you more of them. It's okay, baby. I will show you more of them as we go on. So plantain. So plantain, again, not the banana, plantago. So what it is it grows along cracks, roadsides, meadows, lawns, and it's usually in the rocky, compact soil, areas that are traveled on, right? That's why the indigenous people called it the white man's footprint, right? Or white man's foot, because they noticed everywhere that they traveled on, these little plants would pop up. And they're like, okay, so this is what we're going to relate this to, right? And so usually this is all on disturbed soil. So if you notice, if you go out into your sidewalk, you'll see them in the cracks of your sidewalk. Or if you notice like areas where kids tend to play in, you'll see them in that area as well. And really what they're trying to do is they're trying to take back over what is being trodden on. It's also called snakeweed. And the reason they call it snakeweed is because they actually used this plant when they had a snake bite. And it would actually draw out the snake bite. And it was extremely useful for snake bites. And so we'll notice that the plants that we're going to go over today, they are specifically cleansing plants. And so a lot of things that we'll talk about, they'll have sort of the same properties, because they are both going to be cleansing plants. And cleansing plants, they focus on like your cleansing system, things that cleanse your body. So that's your liver, that's your bladder, your intestines, your kidneys, your lungs, anything that when you take something in and bring it out, right? So you bring something in, your bladder takes out the waste, right? You bring air in,
Right.
and your lungs, they take out the carbon monoxide, right? So anything that is a cleansing herb is going to target those areas that are cleansing organs, okay? And so what can you use plantains for? You can use it externally on bites, cuts, scrapes. If you have eczema, if you have psoriasis, different skin conditions, that is what you can use plantains for externally. And what you would do is you would take it, you would rip up the plant, and you would place it on, the affected area. What you can do internally is you can use it for the lining of your intestines, if it's any inflammation, if there's inflammation in your urinary tract, pretty much any inflammation of the body. What it's going to do is it's going to target it so that it can grab it and it can expel it out, right? Because that's what a cleansing herb is. It's going to take whatever toxin in your blood or take whatever toxin is within those organs, and it's going to expel it out. It's going to say, you do not belong here, and you got to go, right? And so that's, one thing that they do internally. Also, so what you will do for preparation, right? So there's a lot of information on, what we can use it for. But why have all the information on what you can use it for if you're not going to tell me how you can prepare it to be used, right? And so one thing when it comes to preparation externally is you can, crush the leaves with your hands, right? And I actually have a leaf here with me. I got it right from my backyard. When you are looking for the plants, when you're looking for the weeds that you're going to use, you're going to want them to be even in color. And this is a narrow leaf. You're going to want them to be even in color. And you don't want them to have any brown spots. You don't want little like white spots. And you want to make sure that you're not getting them from close to a highway, close to a street, close to anything that has a car exhaust, where, that car exhaust is going to go in and penetrate the plant. So again, it's great. I'm sure you can find it in a meadow, you can find it in a field, you can find it in so many areas close to you. Just please, please, please stay away from the street, because plants love to absorb their environment. And if you're in a toxic environment, it's going to be a toxic plant, right? And so one thing you'll do is you can crush it like this. If you notice, as I crush it, it begins to welt, but not only will it welt, as it welts, and I wish you could smell it, because you'll begin to smell everything that comes out. And if you look, you will see it gets darker. Do you see the darker areas? And those dark areas are where the medicine is being secreted. So you'll take it as it gets darker, right? You will put it on the affected area. You can put it on as a poultice, right? And just kind of lay it on like this on the affected area. Or what the indigenous people would do is they would take it and they would wrap it around, and it would be used as a bandage. And that's for cuts, that's for bruises, that's for bites, spider bites. If you do a poultice on a spider bite, what it'll do is it'll suck out, all of that pus and inflammation within that, so that it cleanses and it'll be able to heal properly. You can also do it by mouth, right? So just like I crushed it up by hand, you can also chew it. It's edible. It's not going to do you any harm. The benefit of chewing it is your saliva. You get extra antibacterial properties from your saliva. So many people dismiss the saliva that is in our mouth. Our saliva is filled with tissue factor. If you are aware of tissue factor is what helps to heal the body. It's what rejuvenates your all of your tissue in your body. And it's cell-derived tissue factor, which means that it derives from your blood cells. And so what it does is it gives that extra little oomph, right, to the plant material. So now you have all of the anti-inflammatory, all of the cleansing properties, and then you add that with your saliva, and you have a really great medicine. And so another way you can use it is through creating a salve. Can you go get the plantain oil for me? You can use it as a salve or an oil. And what you do is you'll extract the plant. You will take it and you can put it in a jar, like a mason jar. And when you put it in the mason jar, you'll cover it with oil. I love coconut oil. I think coconut oil is wonderful for the skin. It also has all of its anti-inflammatory, antibacterial properties of the coconut oil. And then all of the plant extract, you'll let it sit. You can let it sit for like 6 weeks. And it'll actually go into the oil, and the oil will extract it. It is extremely important to let it dry. You want to make sure that you let it dry because it'll be more potent with it being dry, and it'll last longer. If you don't let it dry, this has water in it. That's why, you're able to make it, it's malleable and you can move it and it's soft-ish, right? So you want to at least let it dry out, because the more that it's dried out, the less water it'll be. And so put it in oil, let it sit for like 6 weeks, and it'll extract out. Another method that you can do is you can put it in, you can do a fast extraction, where you will put it in oil. You can put it on a very, very low setting. You can use a crock pot, things like that, on the lowest setting that you can get it. And you can allow it to extract that way, because the heat, thank you, baby. The heat will pull it out. And once you get the extraction, which I probably need to make more because I am definitely running low. I have a bigger bottle, but once you get the extraction, I apologize. Once you get the extraction, you can add a little bit of beeswax, and you kind of mix the beeswax up, and it'll make this beautiful salve oil. And you will put that on cuts, bruises, scrapes. As you see, I have 4 kids, so we use plantain oil, plantain salve a lot. So another good way to use plantain is a tincture. A tincture is an alcohol-based extraction. And so what you would do is you would take the plant, you would let it dry out a little bit. You would put it into a mason jar. You would cover the plant, 1 part plant, 5 parts of the whatever you're using, whether it be alcohol, you can use vinegar, you can use glycerin. There's so many things that you can use for the extraction. But the tincture, the strongest tincture is going to be an alcohol-based tincture, 40%, 50% alcohol-based tincture. And you will let that sit in the mason jar, in the alcohol, and it will extract it out. Let that sit for about, I'd say about a month, 6 weeks. 6 months will give you, the longer you let it sit for any of this, for the oil-based, for the vinegar-based, the alcohol-based, the longer you let it sit, the stronger and more potent it's going to be. And so that's, one thing to keep in mind. And of course, infusions are, water infusions. When you think of infusions, when people say infusions, are pretty much talking about a tea. You can make a plantain tea. And you can, sip on that about twice a day, and, have it as a tea instead of as a tincture, or using it as, a salve. But again, as I was mentioning earlier, plantains are edible. So if you're feeling like, all right, I want to make a salad, I need something to spice it up, or I'm kind of having a little stomach upset, you can go in the back, grab your plantain leaf, stick it in your mouth, and eat it. The next plant we're going to talk about is the red clover. Again, it's the white clover's little cousin, or a bigger cousin. And I apologize, I'm not able to eat, but I just wanted to show you, you're able to eat it. So yes, so the red clover, if you notice, it's, little spike there, it's little spikes. I'm gonna leave this up here for a little bit. And the great thing about red clover is when you pick, and I did not have any red clover in my backyard, or I would have brought one. When you pick off these little, are you guys able to see the pointer? Oh, wow. When you pick off these little, I know we have white clover, but we don't have red, baby. When you pick off these little leaves, there's actually, you'll see little honey on the tips of the leaves. And it's sweet. It tastes great. My kids love it. And they will pick red clover and, the little honey that comes off of it. And so when you think of red clover, it grows, again, it's going to go around the roadsides, the meadows, the fields, things of that sort. If you notice, oh, look at that there. If you look at Marin's screen, you can get me the charger. If you look at Marin's screen, she actually has red clover. And so, is everybody able to see it? Is everybody able to see her screen?
And I'll demonstrate the,
No.
okay. If you go to your upper right corner, you have the option of speaker view side by side or gallery view. So if you go to gallery view, cool. And the host could spotlight me for everyone. Anyway, this is, okay. So this is red clover. It's a little purplier than it looks on my screen, but, and then you pull off the little boobas, and then I turn around my camera and we say, oh, yum. And we eat them.
Yes.
So
And they're really,
there,
really good.
since you didn't have any from your yard, and I can find all these, I'm out, I was just harvesting strawberries. But I have all these plants here. I could show people if you are missing any pictures.
Thank you. That is perfect.
Um,
Sorry, my computer's dying, so I had to hurry up and plug it in. Thank you, Sugar Booger. And so, yes, so plantain, red clover. And did you see the, were you able to see the honey on the red clover, when you pulled it? The little beads of honey? Lauren? Oh, yes, so they'll have like little beads of honey and you can taste them and they're really sweet. And people actually,
yeah, I find that
go
the
ahead.
sweetness is inside. It's a little tubular flowerlet. And this is like a little fingerful, a pinch of them taken off. That's why this flower now looks weird. I don't see a bead on the outside, but it's inside that little tube.
If you squeeze it up,
Oh, I could probably squeeze it. My nice dirty hands here. I just nibble them. You can eat the whole thing, or you
Yep.
can suck on it.
and you just pop them right in.
Oh, yeah, I
So
don't really see the honey on the outside, and it would be nectar, not honey. Honey is after a lot of bees have fanned their wings over it for a really long time.
yes, I apologize. Yes, the nectar.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm saying honey is a lot of people actually make red clover honey, so I apologize. But yes, the nectar of the plant, and bees absolutely love it, which is also why they're called the bee bread by the native.
Actually, honeybees don't eat red clover. They can't get at.
So they don't. So a lot of bees go onto the red clover from my research. Bees actually go to the
Interesting.
red clover. I'm not sure if they actually eat it, but I know they actually like go to the red clover, and they're in areas where a lot of red clover is. Again, that's my research and why it's been called
Okay.
red.
Bee bread is a substance that bees make in the hive. Is bee bread. Clover, yeah. Anyway, I'll shut up now. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. I mean, that's just been my research of what I've been taught is that, they utilize red clover. But yeah, and it's also called purple clover, which I'm sure you can understand why it's called purple clover, is because of the color. Also, if you notice on the photo, and I'll go back to the more in-depth photo, there's 3 leaflets, and the 3 leaflets, actually they call it, because of the 3 leaflets, they call it the Trinity. If you think of like Christianity, you think of Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, and then the 3 leaflets that are on the red clover. So these flower from early to late summer. So summer is right around the corner. Once you begin to see, these red clovers, you'll know that summer is right around the corner. So the uses, again, it is a cleansing herb. We're focusing on, cleansing herbs. So inflammation, the Native Americans actually used red clover for some cancers. And it's actually an ingredient in one of their cancer blends. And it's so awesome. My father-in-law, he is a shaman. He's actually a cacique. And so he gave me, a booklet of, different herbal remedies and things of that sort. And so it says in that booklet, it says a lot about how, red clover is used and what its what its partnering herbs are to help to build, different immunities and, build different body functions. So that was awesome. It's also a blood purifier. The one thing that we always say to look out for about red clover, however, is if you're on anything that thins your blood, if any medication that thins your blood, you want to be extremely careful because red clover, it's a blood thinner. And so because it's a blood thinner, taking it when you're already taking, a blood thinning medication, it just wouldn't mix well. Also, when you think of cleansing, again, asthma. So your lungs, again, it cleanses, right? You breathe in oxygen, you breathe out carbon monoxide. So you breathe out the bad air. So your lungs are actually a cleansing organ, right? And so you'll find it that it's good for asthma. It's good for, clearing and strengthening the lungs, bronchitis, pneumonia, things of that sort. And even just the muscles and the lining of the lungs to strengthen it. Red clover is amazing with that. We have a pretty good bit of women on here, right? All of you guys look so young. So I'm pretty sure you guys don't need to worry about menopause anytime soon. But it's also helpful and useful for menopause. The best thing is it has isoflavones. And with that, it kind of mimics estrogen, estrogen. And so when you're using it, it helps to kind of regulate your hormones. It regulates, if you're having hot flashes, if you're having cramps, if you're having, overall like discomfort, it's very helpful to regulate like your hormones and kind of get you regular. Again, it's also really good for if you have tumors, because again, it's a cleansing herb. So it detoxifies. So with tumors, breast tumors, especially tumors specifically related to the reproductive system, it's really good with, like breast tumors or fibroids, things of that sort. It helps to clear things out and clean things out. You do want to be very careful about, tumors or cysts that feed on estrogen, right? Because if it's mimicking estrogen, if something is feeding on estrogen, you want to be extremely careful with that. But it has been extremely beneficial, they see, when it comes to that. Internal, I'm gonna kind of speed it along here, okay? So red clover internally, you can use it infusions, which is tea, extractions, again, that is vinegars, salads. Again, they're edible. As you've seen, Maren was eating them. They're very edible. They are very yummy. So you can eat them. You can just snack on them when you're going. So when I have infusions and teas, so if you're infusing something, and this is something that is the distinction, when you're infusing something, you're going to infuse it for at least 30 minutes. You're making it as a tea, but teas are only about 10 to 15 minutes when you're brewing them. Infusions are about 30 minutes. So it is a strong tea. Externally, you can use it as a salve. You would make it the same way you would the plantain, as I had shown you previously. So again, we ask, what is a weed, right? By definition, it says something that chokes out cultivated plants, right? Something that is unwanted, right? But I have this example, asparagus or garlic, right? So if you are planting, you're not going to put asparagus and garlic together because they're going to fight, and they are going to fight for the nutrients that they need. And so one is going to cancel the other out, and it's not going to grow as abundantly, right? And that's essentially what they're saying a weed is, right? It's like, it's something that's going to grow and choke out another plant, right? So I have to ask, if you put asparagus and garlic together, right, which one is the weed, right? Would it be the asparagus or the garlic? Or is it just subjective? A lot of times in society, we look at the things that we don't quite understand, right? Or we don't quite know much about, and we automatically write it off and try to get rid of it. And so that's what we see in society. So the medicine that many used to use so long ago, we just mow it over because we don't understand it. And so the subjection of what is a weed, I always say, let's just call them herbs, right? Let us get out of the mindset of, okay, this is a weed, and get into the mindset of, oh, this is a different herb, an herb that I need to study, an herb that I need to understand, an herb that can be used for food, for medicine, for health, and for wholeness, for wellness. Because in a society, specifically where we struggle with getting food and getting things of that sort, how many yards have red clover? How many yards have plantain that we can utilize for food? And so I open it up for questions and answers. Does anybody have any questions? I apologize, I did go over. I'm so sorry, Annie.
Does anyone have questions for Jona?
I have one question, Jona. You mentioned about the, I think it was the purple clover or the red clover that was a blood thinner. How much of that do you have to have a lot of it in order to cause a problem?
So red clover on its own, we haven't found that it has too much of a problem on its own. Again, I always say too much of a good thing is a bad thing, right? But so we don't see it on its own as being a problem. What we see is whenever it's mixed with a medication that has the tendency to thin your blood. And a lot of these medications, if you don't look at the list of side effects, right, you wouldn't even know that it has the ability to thin your blood. So we always say, be careful with the medications that you use and combining them with herbal, because unless you know absolutely everything about the drug, the drug that you're taking, it's very, very, very hard to tell if it's going to have the counteraction. So, but to answer your question, red clover alone, we have not seen it have an issue. And also, I have to give the disclaimer, being that the FDA is not able to do any testing on or any patenting on any of these herbal remedies. We're technically not allowed to call them medicine because they're not approved by the FDA. So I have to give that disclaimer that these are herbal supplements that are able to help with wellness and the health of your life.
Thank you. Excellent.
So any other questions?
How long when you pick any of these things, how long do they last before you wouldn't want to use them again? So do you put them in your refrigerator like you do lettuce, or do you just use them right away? Or start drying them right away?
So you can eat them fresh, as a salad, everything like that. But again, with the water content of it, Fresh is more diluted. So a lot of times what you do is you will dry them, and I wish I had my herbs that I was drying. I just finished my chamomile. But you would dry them, and you can pack them. You can pack them in like a freezer bag. You can pack them in anything. And they will, each herb has a different potency lifespan, right? So red clover, I believe the lifespan for potency is 2 years. I believe so. So each herb, because of its makeup, they all have, you know, different lifespans. It's not going to be like a all around straight answer for how long. But yes, you can dry them. And yeah, no, you don't need to freeze the herb. You can put them in a jar or a freezer bag or anything like that, but you don't need to freeze it in the freezer bag. Thank you, Marin, for making that clarification. When I say a freezer bag, I'm not saying like a freezer bag so that you can put it in the freezer. I'm saying a freezer bag just to store it, to make sure that it's tight. But yeah, but it'll last you a while. All you do is forage it, dry it, things of that sort. And you're able to keep it for a while and use it as you please. And you can even separate it by ounces, because if you use 1 ounce, you can take 1 ounce, go put it in to tincture it, and you don't have to worry about like opening all the other bags, right? So if you separate it by what you need or what you would use, it'll also help it to keep that seal. Any other questions?
I know we're about at time. We do have some new faces today, so I'm going to call people out to introduce themselves.
Awesome.
Mary Grace, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Mary Grace. I just started as a intern with Protect PT. And Annie talked about this earlier today, and I thought it sounded cool. I really like the subject of sustainable agriculture, and I've done a lot of work with it. And I've eaten so much of that red clover from when I was little, and I smiled so big seeing those pictures. So I really liked your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, great job, Jona. I don't know why I didn't say that first. That was really informative, super cool. I'm excited to be able to like share that with folks on our YouTube. Yeah, and then Carla is also new. I think you're muted, Carla. If you want to introduce yourself, we would love to.
It's in the left corner.
Okay, how's that? Does
Yeah.
that work?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, my friend had just sent me a link, and because she knows I'm kind of into this stuff and trying to learn more. I'm actually in a couple of Facebook groups that talk about stuff like this, and I'm just gathering information for my own family and trying to do better. Thank you.
No problem. It's nice to meet you. And I mean, everybody has my information. I'll put my information in the chat. Again, I take clients and consultations, and I teach. So I'm definitely willing to. That's where it started with me. I was like, I need to do better for my family. So I understand completely. Yeah, definitely.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, that was so interesting. And those plants I've seen all my life.
Was that about power?
Yeah, that's the fun thing about it.
Last time they had
That's why I said.
Somehow or another, they just got better. That's not the best way to eat tortellini. They look a little similar.
Don't even pay attention to it. We literally we're just like, oh, it's outside, cool, where's the lawnmower? Or, oh, that plant is getting very big. But yeah, it's things that we see and probably played with as kids, right? How many of you guys have actually played with one of like the plantains, the seed stalks, or one of your plants by like picking it, or some people do, he loves me not, right? So turns into a plaything.
Cool. Well, thanks for your informative presentation, Jona. And sorry we didn't get to do great breakout groups, everyone, but I think it was still time well spent. I will send a follow-up tomorrow. If Jona, if you want to, if it's okay with you, I'll like share your information and I'll share the recording of this, and yeah, everyone can go outside and forage some weeds.
Yes. I'm going to put my information in the chat. So if anyone has any questions or wants to know about any plants that are in your backyard, just let me know.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Well, I have a question. This is this isn't a weed, but it's a cultivated, and it has like these bells, like white bells or purple, but white bells, and there are a lot of, it's like a bush, and it's got a very pungent smell. I probably have to show. I just always wonder what the name of that plant is.
Yeah, definitely. If you send me a picture, I can try to give you a identification. There's a couple of plants that have white bells. I'm currently trying to plant Solomon seal that kind of has like bell-looking leaves, bell-looking flowers. And so once that's grown, be so excited because it's great for like your bones and joints and all the good stuff. So yeah, send me a picture and I'll try to give you an identification.
Okay.
I just wanted to say, I'm not sure if the David that's here is the same David that I met in person on the walk that we had at Boyce, but if you are that David, and even if you're not, would you like to introduce yourself and just maybe say a word or two about what you might have learned on our hike that Tammy Wadowitz did this past week?
No, David is not right here. He was here earlier, but he did not go on that walk. It must be another David.
There is another David who I think has been here before, David Muller.
Yeah, I was the one who was on the walk. I don't know, can you hear me?
Yes.
I think so. Yeah. I don't know, there were so many things on that walk. I thought Tammy did a really good job. The thing that stuck out in my mind for some reason is the witch hazel tree, because I always thought it was a bush. And the few plants that we tasted, which I can't quite remember everything, but we did actually pick some plants and taste them. I thought that was really interesting. And that's about it. I really have nothing else to say. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, hopefully we can do another in-person like nature walk or hike this summer, because it was just really pleasant to see people in person. I've been working for TCWAC since October, and I see Alyssa every week at Zoom meetings, and that was the first time I'd seen her in person. So it was very special to actually like see people in person, outside in nature, because it's what we talk about all the time. So amazing.
Yeah, I just want to encourage everybody to get involved on any level that you feel moved. I know that I wanted to also thank Jona because she has spent many, many, many hours in the podcast group. And the podcast is really taking off now. And if you listen to the podcast on anchor.fm, it's called Journey Through Health and Wellness. You can hear some of the interviews by Jona and with Jona. And if you're interested in being interviewed yourself, we would love to learn about your own journey through health and wellness. And if you're like, just for example, starting in with learning about clover and whatever else it is, then you can just talk about how exciting that is, whatever. We're just looking for people to interview. Thanks.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, stay in touch, and thanks everyone for joining us on a nice summer evening. If anyone has to go, I'll stay on if you want to chat, but yeah, have a good night.
Out.
So if you look at the fatty acid profiles for the clover bee bread and the pollen and prosemitic of red clover, you'll notice that, with the bee pollen and the monofloro bee bread is collected from the red clover. And then it can be identified and quantified as the fatty acids, so yeah, it's pretty awesome the way that, nature as well, like nature, animals, as well as the plants kind of collaborate together to make this amazing composition, Stop share.